So my friends, I welcome all of you, 91,000 star seeds, light workers and wanderers from all over the world to this session. And in today's session, I had channeled the Galactic Federation, and actually I had to do this really urgently because like many people, they emailed me regarding the death of Queen Elizabeth II. As many of you may already know, it happened recently on the 8th of September. And I wanted to know, what was the real truth, because many people, they emailed me, ask whether the Queen actually died before, or is she dying right now, or what was going on, okay? Because I had no idea about any of that before, but turns out when I asked the question, there is something deeper going on. This is so deep, your mind will expand. I literally took some notes. Look at the notes that I had to write for this session. It is so deep, okay? So let me just clear this out first of all. Before you watch the session, I want to state that, listen, you have to use your discernment when listening to all of this, okay? And if you do not believe in channeling, or if you don't believe that there is something happening besides this reality which we see, then you have the choice to either accept this information or to let go of the information, because it turns out there is way more things happening on our back. Most people, normal people, they will no longer be able to see that, okay, because they are not aware of that dimension, right? And in this session, what I have asked about is, what is the real truth behind the death of Queen Elizabeth? And the revelations are mind-blowing. Like I always say, it's amazing. Basically, in this session, what I have asked about is was Queen Elizabeth, dead before, or did she actually die right now? And the other thing that I asked about is the soul evolution or the past lives of Queen Elizabeth II, in order to understand where she comes from, right? And the other thing is about where is she currently? So after the death, what happens to a soul? Where is she currently, right? So this is very fascinating information, which I also love to find out. And I also asked about something known as what they have shared is, they have shared a simple method which we can use in order to ascend faster, okay? Like always, I always like to ask us a method which we can use, because that is the best thing, right? To learn a method which we can use to ascend higher in consciousness. That is the best way to help each of us to ascend at this time. So without much further ado, let's begin the session. And also I want to say that I am holding a meditation on 21st of September in order to protect our Earth planet from the negative energies, as we already know from the previous session, which I will hold on my Patreon 100%, because my internet on my Patreon works really well. I don't know why. On YouTube, I may get some glitches here and there. It doesn't work sometimes, okay? So with that being said, here's the session, my friends. I just want to say big thank you to all of you for liking the video, as it helps to reach out to all other light workers, star seeds and wanderers at this time. So enjoy, my friends.
We are the Galactic Federation, and we are now communicating through this instrument today. For answering the queries which have been requested by the instrument, before we start to share our thoughts and insights today, there must be a discernment which must be followed by each individualized portion of consciousness, who shall listen to our messages, the reason being that we are overlooking the progress of the planetary sphere. And we have been given the responsibility of guiding the human collective consciousness by the Council of Planets. Since there has been a development in your consciousness since we started our transmission through this instrument, as well as through other entities, there has been a mass awakening. Hence, we must state that discernment must still be used. The queries which we are able to sense today, which have been placed by this instrument, pertains to the truth behind the death and crossing over of an entity, referred to in your vibratory sound complex terms as Queen Elizabeth II by the people of your planet. We must state that this communication transmission must be discerned extremely by your inner heart. Since the information which we are now going to share may be shocking to many entities, and this may provide a inner understanding of the real happenings which are happening as a shadow reality to this current illusion complex. We must state that the entity known as Queen Elizabeth by your people has had a complicated timeline experience, which has led the entity to this point. The first experience that we are going to share with you pertains to that the Queen Elizabeth II and her soul, which was the original soul that had incarnated during the time of her birth on the space-time continuum measurement terms as 1926 was originally the so-called the soul, which was crossed over, and the entity originally had crossed over in the timeline, as referred to by your people as 2012. Furthermore, since the entity had already crossed over in the year 2012 prior to the ending of the incarnation, the entity and its family members, prior to the death of the original soul, had conducted a ritual which had created an energetic soul contract with the reptilians, and this energetic soul contract with the reptilians was primarily the reason why the entity was then able to find a new soul. After the time period of 2012, this new soul was primarily controlled by a soul complex emerging from the reptilian social memory complex of the later fourth density consciousness, which had overtaken this entity's soul, and the physical bodily complex of the entity had regained its vigor from the time period of 2012 to the current space-time of 2022. The entity's soul was of a reptilian nature. This occurred primarily because there was a distortion which occurs on your planetary sphere. The distortion, which is of greed and power, was the main reason behind the conducting of such events, as the entity known as Queen Elizabeth in the year 2012 was extremely powerful, and its family members were in no place to allow her to cross over. Hence they summoned the aid of the negatively oriented reptilian social memory complex to aid in this soul swap, which then led the entity from the perceiver on the outside on the human social memory complex to be alive. Furthermore, we must state that all of the actions which were conducted from that period was conducted by the reptilian social memory complex via the connection with the silver cord of the entity known as Elizabeth. We also must disclose a event which happened on the timeline of 8th of September in your planetary space-time galactic system in the planet of Mars. The Ashtar command groups, along with other social memory complexes responsible for protecting the planetary quarantine and protecting the galactic system, had infiltrated the Mars body for the purpose of using love and light to create distortions in the field of the negatively oriented beings and their plans to spread negative agenda. During the infiltration, the Astral Command groups were able to penetrate to the core of the Mars bodily complex and were able to create a love light infused energetic explosion which led to the destruction of a large portion of the reptilian social memory complex. Since they do not adhere to love and light energy, and because of this destruction of the energetic social memory complex, which was primarily responsible for controlling the entity known as Queen Bodily Complex, then the entities known as the Ashtar Command Group, along with the original higher self of the entity, were able to recover the silver cord of the entity known as Queen Elizabeth II, thereby allowing the entity's bodily complex to be currently not controlled by any negatively oriented entities. Furthermore, at this time, the bodily complex of the entity known as the Queen is not being controlled by any negatively oriented entity, and there is no soul at this present moment. However, still we must reveal that the original bodily complex is still kept under the possession of the family members of the entity known as Queen Elizabeth, and a duplicate replica of the bodily complex was created out of wax to undergo the ceremony of cremation and other ceremonies as are usual in your vibration. Furthermore, we can also sense from the mind complex activity of the family members of the entity known as Queen Elizabeth II. They desire to conduct another ritual for summoning the reptilians in the coming days as the second trial to allow the entity to regain its power and live again. Therefore, we must also state that this is a small victory for our light beings, as we were able to infiltrate and create some changes in the planetary vibration. Furthermore, this also resulted in the significance of a double rainbow appearing during the crossing over or the death of these events which happened during the timeline. This signifies the victory of the light, even though it may be in a small scale. Furthermore, the entity known as the instrument desires also to understand the past incarnation of the entity known as Queen Elizabeth II, and also its current location. We shall now address one timeline only, sharing only those points which may be of aid to the people of your planet to understand. This entity primarily had originated from the one infinite creator around 685 million years ago. This occurred in the planet known as Nibiru by your people, and the entity primarily learned many lessons as elementals in the first density consciousness for a period of 200,000 years and was known by the sole name of Iria, which means to overcome. This entity then, throughout its cycle of progression, slowly and steadily has went through many cycles of incarnation, and we shall now share the timeline of moving backwards from the current incarnation cycle of 1926 to 2012, and we shall now share the previous incarnation cycle of the entity. Prior to this incarnation, the entity known as Queen Elizabeth II was found in the planet known as Sirius A, wherein the entity's main purpose was to learn the lessons of love and compassion. This entity was guided by the Syrians to incarnate into the fourth density polarity positive vibration, and chose to enter into the Earth planet as a wanderer to further the expansion of the entity and to become oriented towards the vibration of love. Furthermore, this entity in the timeline was able to learn the lessons of fourth density vibration and decided to incarnate into the Earth planet at this current time to become a wanderer and a teacher of love and light. This entity, however, was lured into the negative polarity because of greed and power, as all wanderers have the same potential or danger of incarnation in the timeline. Since if a wanderer becomes trapped in the illusion complex reality, such entrapments would lead to the ending of the cycle of a wanderer in the positive polarity. Instead, such a wanderer has to learn the lessons again to overcome the attachments of third density. Prior to that incarnation, it was found in the lands as referred to by a people as in the planet of Maldek, wherein the entity spent its lesson of third density consciousness, going through the stages of evolution by becoming self-aware and learning the lessons requiring a higher understanding of services to others. In the planetary system of Maldek, it had chosen the path of service to others in a great extent, and this led the entity to become eligible for the initiation in the Sirius B planetary sphere. And prior to that incarnation in the planet Maldek, the entity was found in the planetary sphere known as Nibiru, wherein it spent its timeline primarily for the first density and second density lessons. Therefore, this is the sole evolution of the entity known as Elizabeth II, and we must state that currently the entity's original soul is trapped in the astral planes because of its silver cord being used by the negatively entities, and now it is under the possession of its own higher self social memory complex of the sixth density, and is now undergoing the process of healing. Therefore, we must now also address the final query which relates with and the method for allowing the entities of the Earth planet to have a control of the illusion complex. We must state that the illusion complex is a type of responsive mechanism or a mirroring system which is created which responds to the explosion of light, which is represented by your emotions, Whenever entities upon your planet explode energetically with the emotion for any event, such an event will replicate itself in the illusion complex. For example, if there are two entities upon your planetary sphere, one entity only reacts emotionally to positive events, whereas the other entity reacts to both the positive and the negative events. Then in the coming space-time illusion complex, the entities whose reactions emotionally only to the positive emotions will find itself in a more positive timeline, since this will create the merger of such an entity's vibration towards the highest level of creation, and the refraction system of the illusion complex will create more positivity, whereas the entity who reacts both to the positive and negative emotions and events will create both these types of events in the future space-time of your illusion complex. Hence, the self-awareness of the type of emotional reaction which are being done every moment is the great lesson each entity has to learn in this illusion complex experience to become aware of what they are responding to. Hence, we as the Galactic Federation now leave you, beloveds, in love and light. Bye.
So my friends, after watching the session, I hope you have gained some understanding like I have. Basically, I'm going to explain to you what I learned from the session. So the first thing that I have learned from the session is, look, Queen Elizabeth actually had died in the year 2012. Her real soul died in the year 2012. What actually happened was, when she died in 2012, her family members, they did some invocation, I believe, or a ritual which summoned the reptilians, and the soul, and the soul which was then entered into the body of Queen Elizabeth was a reptilian soul. This happened after she died in 2012. Her soul was replaced by a reptilian. So from the period of 2012 to 2022, she was being used by a reptilian soul. Okay, this is very interesting to understand. And you need to also understand that, look, what actually happened was that we have a silver cord, right? Her silver cord was actually hijacked by the negative entities, and they were using her silver cord to control her in this timeline. The other thing that happened, the reason why this death kind of thing happened, was because there was an infiltration by the Aster command groups on the Mars planet. Since we already know that negative entities, they are located in Mars, there was a huge infiltration which happened on the 8th of September. And the Aster command groups, they were able to destroy a large faction of the negative entities. So I believe, the reptilian social memory complex was destroyed. So, and the portion which was controlling the Queen's body, okay, was also destroyed. Maybe there were other entities who were also being controlled. We never know. The other thing that I found really fascinating was, look, they said that, since this was a small victory for the light, there was a rainbow scene, okay, during the happening of the event, the supposed death of the Queen Elizabeth II, right? And also one of the things that I remember from the session is, from her past life, okay, from her past life, it was found that she's actually from Nibiru, and she began her incarnation in Nibiru and learned the lesson. Turns out, she was actually a positive oriented being. Her original soul was a positive oriented wanderer. Okay, like this is like crazy, right? So I think, this is a lesson we all need to learn. Even if we are wanderers, star seeds, or light workers, we must learn that, what they have said is, because of greed and power, because of the lure of greed and power, the entity was attached into the third density reality. And, she had a mission to share love and light, but she was not able to do that because she was attached to the power that she had in this third density reality. And because of that, she could not complete her original mission. Okay, this is what we learned. So all of us wanderers, we need to be very careful not to be attached too much to third density reality and to fulfill our mission, okay? What they've said is Queen Elizabeth also, spent some time in Sirius A planet to learn the lessons of love and compassion before coming here. And prior to that, she was found in Maldex. So these are all interesting facts which I learned, but the most important lesson which I learned, which may seem to be like a warning to all wanderers and light workers and starseed, is listen, don't be too attached to the outside reality. Otherwise, same thing may happen to us, right? The other thing that I learned about is the explosion of light method which we can use in order to ascend higher in consciousness. So this is basically simple in that what they said is you have to be self-aware of what you are emotionally reacting to. So you have to be so aware that you need to be able to choose what you will emotionally react to. So you can react emotionally to a positive event. And if something positive happens, you just react positively, like emotionally, right? Like, whoa, something good happened, yes, thank you, right? And if something bad happens, you don't react. If you continue this cycle of reacting only to the positive events, you will find more positive events in this reality. This is one way of controlling the illusion complex, as they say. So I hope you understood everything that is explained in the session. With that being said, I just need to say thank you to all of you for joining me today and watching the video, and also for liking the video. I want to say a big thank you to all of you for sending me past life requests where I channel your higher self whenever I get free time about your soul name, your current life purpose, and any other questions you may have. So you can send it to my email over here. The other thing is I want to say a big thank you to all of you for joining me on my Patreon, where I share sessions almost 3 times a week. And also we do meditations, we do applications. If you want to dive in deep into ascension, then Patreon is for you. The other thing is I want to say a big thank you to all of you for also joining me on Unified for the 4-part series, and just watching the sessions which I have done for Unified. And the other thing is I want to say a big thank you to all of you for downloading the free PDF of the sessions which I have done till now, which can be downloaded from the link in the description. And the other thing is I want to say a big thank you to all of you for watching this next video, which you may like. So thank you, my friends.